Just Be a Man. Each podcast, we offer commentary from a man's perspective on a range of meaningful topics, such as our world, family, relationships, sex, and much, much more. Our purpose is to impart wisdom to our audience through meaningful and transparent conversation. This program is hosted by 5 brothers from other mothers who have been friends for over 30 years and collectively have over 250 years of experience.
What's going on, everyone? It's your man, Mike Thickpin from Just Be a Man 2020. I'm your host, and I'm here with my 4 homeboys of 30 years. I got Charles, Chuck, Steph, Wayne, and tonight's topic on tap is when your child tells you college is not for them. First up is my man, Chuck. Chuck, what are your thoughts on that, brother?
More power to them. Times have changed. Back in the day, it was expected that, you get a good education, you go to college, you get your degree, and then when you go off into the world, you get a good job. Well, that hasn't been true for quite some time. You can go to school and get a degree, you can get a master's degree, and you're still out here looking for a job, you're still struggling. But not only that, college just isn't for everybody. Higher education isn't for everybody. I put myself in that category. I believe I'm just as smart as anyone else. But college, I knew college wasn't for me early on. I went, but it really wasn't for me. I knew in grade school that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I knew that I didn't want to work for anybody else. I knew that, in school, I had trouble taking instructions from the teacher. So how was I going to take that from a future employer? So, college, higher education isn't for everyone. So then what do you do? If your child comes to you and says, "Hey, Dad, Mom, college isn't for me." Okay, what's your plan? Because it doesn't stop there. You just can't decide you don't want to go to college. There has to be a plan. There's the military. There is entrepreneurship. There's, if you want to find yourself and go off into the world and travel and try to become a little more worldly, you can do that too. But you need to have a plan. I have no issue with for example, my middle child, she has wanted to see the world since she was 9, 10 years old. She wanted to move out since she was 12, 13, I knew college wasn't really for her. Went to college. She did well. She decided to take some time off because she just wanted to experience life. I don't have a problem with that. You've got to find yourself in this world. And if college isn't for you, it might not be for you. But if that's the case, just realize you have to have a plan.
Okay. That sounds good, man. I appreciate that. That's great stuff. Wayne, what are your thoughts on that?
That's interesting. So I have, obviously, we all met in college, so we have some of those similar experiences. But I do have a son. I have a daughter who is currently in college, and I have a son who is finishing up high school. And I believe, and I'm not saying anything I didn't say to him, I don't believe he wants to go to college, and he's doing everything to make sure he can't get into that. I'm gonna say a different word there, but I'm gonna stop.
I appreciate
But I've accepted that. Like, it was tough. It was a little bit tougher at first, but then I said, you know what? That's fine, but you have to have a plan. Like Chuck said, all right, now what? All right, so if you're not going to go to college, are you going to join the military? Are you going to go in the military? Are you going to do something else that you can do with a high school diploma that will allow you to care for yourself? I mean, that's the bottom line. Because another thing, if you think about it, do you really want to push your child to college to spend $25,000 for him to test something out?
Right.
So I'm not. I think it's not financially smart. Everyone kind of had this path that, hey, at some point you finish high school, you go directly to college.
Right.
It doesn't work like that for everyone. I have a friend back in New York who's very successful at what he does. Never even thought about college, and he has a landscaping business back in New York. He does well.
Okay.
And he never even was. I don't even think he filled out an application.
Okay.
So I'm just saying. That's just what it is. That's what it is.
Okay. All right. Because I know that, some of us, we know we have creative children, but they're not interested in college, and some of them are still young at a young age. But let me propose this question to the group. Is it wrong of us to expect an 18-year-old to know what they want in life? Anybody can pick that up.
I think it
Well,
really depends on the maturity level of the child.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because some kids they have it together at age 18, and others it takes a lot longer. So it
yeah,
really just depends on where they are. I mean, for me, college was one of the greatest experiences of my life. It wasn't just about the education,
Yeah.
but
Right.
it's about that's when I really grew up and came into my own. I mean, hell, that's when I met you guys.
Right.
Some of the greatest memories ever. So, when I had that discussion with my oldest son about college, one of the things that I really emphasized wasn't just about getting the education, but it was about becoming a well-rounded individual. And
Right.
I shared some of the
yes,
memories that were created, with you guys, and I wanted him to have that experience for himself. And thankfully, he did. But had he decided to go a different route, yeah, I would have been a little disappointed. However, I would that would not have been the end game. My thing is, again, as already has been stated here, what are the plans that don't involve you living in my house? Period. you know
Facts.
right.
Facts on that one.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, let me say
Hmm.
real quick. I like what Charles just said, and college is a great experience. It was a great experience for all of us, I believe. And whether you finish it or don't finish it, you're definitely learning something. And if you do finish your college, your undergraduate degree, what that does is it shows that you took the effort to do what was required of you.
Right.
Just like graduating high school,
Right.
you did everything that was necessary to graduate
Right.
college, and that's a great thing. But at the end of the day, what you've really learned is how to follow the process. You've learned how to just make sure that you're doing. You did what was necessary to get to the next level, and that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. But if someone says, you know what, I want to get into music and I'm good, okay, I want to get into something in the arts or entertainment because I think I'm that good. That's okay, even though it may take some time. But you can't let your child say, "Hey, I'm not going to go to college and I have no idea what I'm going to do."
Right.
That's the problem. So if they say, "Hey, I just want to sit on the couch," nah, that doesn't work. That
Right,
doesn't work.
Okay.
right.
That's good. I appreciate that, bro. What I was gonna say is that one of my best experiences going to college, and that's where I met most of you guys. And unfortunately, I didn't stay, but it did make me a well-rounded individual as far as learning the process of learning the responsibilities of what you need to do in college, being on your own, being a well-rounded individual, being able to make friends, disengage from friends, and I mean, just overall leaving college, just say to go home, to catch the train, all those things were new to me, and it took a lot of responsibility to do them. But I think once I realized, some of the things that I got involved with when I've actually found employment, and which was a good job at Yale, and then I wound up getting a job with the state. Um, I still missed it, but I was glad to experience some of the friendship. But I also had the ultimate respect for my friends who had the ability to complete, and that says a lot for me because that rubbed off on me in order for me to progress in my job when I became a lead, assistant supervisor type deal. Um, I think some of the experiences have rubbed off on me from the school and from dealing with you guys and seeing you guys be move around the companies and be promoted to different things had an effect. So there's still extended and residual effects from that, especially if you stay in contact with people.
And Steph, okay. Um, it was an expectation that I go to college. I was surrounded by college educated men and women. So there really wasn't a discussion if you're not going to college. Now I could have opted to go in the military, but really it was impressed upon me to go to school. It, really it was important that I be pushed to school because I probably would not have gone to college if I had not been pushed. And from there, I was able to excel and meet you guys. So if my kids were to come up to me and say I'm not going to college, I wouldn't put that pressure on them. It's one of those, hey, you make your decision. And both my girls have decided not to go to college. I mean, one is studying right now to be a physical therapist, but the other one is in corporate headquarters, Hugo Boss, doing very well. So that pressure really wasn't on them, and I wouldn't put that pressure on anyone. Now, one thing I want to say is I also wouldn't force my child to go to the military. Hey, you have to make those type of decisions because the military is a different beast. Now you pressured them to experience something that might actually get them killed. And I had to think about that while I was downrange in Afghanistan and Iraq. Hey, and matter of fact, I had an aunt try to stress to me to talk to her son about going into the military, and this is her only child. And I said, "Oh no, I'm not putting that type of pressure on him. He ends up dead, then she's looking at me cross-eyed for the rest of my life." So, really, just what I think Charles said. What is your plan to get off my couch? That's the best route for your child.
Okay. All right, Chuck. I'm looking at the other alternatives, careers without degrees. Now, you as an entrepreneur, I know you worked, for the state, the police, but I know you also started your own business. So, the careers that without degrees, I mean, the electricians, the plumbers, the chefs, the carpenters. Tell me what your feelings were on that.
They're all great careers. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. It's there. A lot of those careers are overlooked, and a lot of those careers are looked down upon. Look, when we were growing up, and somebody wasn't doing so well in school, and they decided they wanted to be an auto mechanic, you automatically assume that they were dumb. And do you know what it takes to be an auto mechanic? Do you
Hmm.
know what you need to know to be an auto mechanic, especially today?
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, because I mean, the majority of and probably almost all cars are computerized now. So
Right.
it's not just engine work, and it's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So we look down on certain careers back in the day, but some of these careers that you look down on, you can't do it. You can change the tire. Yes, sir.
Chuck, really,
Yeah.
a mechanic is nothing more than an engineer. If you look at
Yeah,
it,
Yeah.
it,
especially with current cars
yeah.
right now,
I
they're
mean,
engineers.
yeah. So I mean, the traditional positions, and I shouldn't. I hate to say traditional, but I believe it is. Back in the day, there were positions that were police officers. Were positions of honor and respect. Barbers were respected. All right. Um, but it's changed. Some of those positions are kind of looked down upon today. But I mean, barbers make hella money. I don't understand why. I want to be a barber. I got to sit. I got to cut people's hair, this, that, and the other. Okay, barbers get paid.
Yeah.
If they, so and trashmen. Man, let me tell you. Hey, look, I don't know about other jurisdictions, but the trashmen over here get paid.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of them, they're not even working 8 hours a day. So look, man. Um, the original, we were talking about, if your child says, they're not cut out for college, they don't want to go to college. Listen, I am all for college. I am pro college. I want to make sure that's 100% clear and everybody understands. I'm pro higher education. I'm pro HBCU. I went to an HBCU. So, and that's what I want for my children. But I recognize and I realize that college was not for me. I did well because I'm an overachiever, and I see a lot of that in my children. And the other thing I did with my children was I let them work. I made them work beside me, so that they could see entrepreneurship in action, so that they can make the decision for themselves. Look, I've told all of my children as early as they were able to understand. If you want to be a mailman, then damn it, you be the best mailman you can be.
Right.
Trash man, same thing. I will support you in anything that you decide to do because ultimately it's your life and you have to be happy.
Right.
If you're not happy, then that transfers into other stuff. Your demeanor, how you treat other people, this, that, and the other. No, I want you to be happy. So, for me,
Wayne.
I'm a,
Okay.
I'm all, yeah, I see you, Wayne. I'm all for college. I'm close it out. I'm all for college, but you can be successful without college. Some of
Oh
the
yeah.
smartest people, some of the smartest people, I'm sorry, some of the dumbest people I know have a college degree.
Oh, no doubt. No
Yep,
All
doubt.
that's
right.
true.
All right. Thank you, brother Chuck.
Yeah,
Wayne.
Yes, sir.
no, I like what Chuck was saying. I didn't mean to really cut him off or take his attention, but it was really interesting. I want to kind of combine something that Chuck said and something that Charles said, and that is that you will support your child for whatever it is that they
Yeah.
do, and that's the important thing. But but what they the decision that they make on whatever they're doing, it has to make them self
Right.
sufficient.
Hmm.
They
Absolutely.
have to use Charles's word, get out of
Yep.
my house.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what your job is. If it's going to pay your rent, get your car done, everything you need done, you ain't got to give me a call. I'm
Right.
good.
Right.
Well, let me
So I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
wanted to bring
no,
Yeah.
that
but
up.
let me throw this out though. I mean,
Yeah.
for those that did not finish, um, have you ever looked back on that and regretted that decision at all?
Me.
For me, I did.
Chuck,
I
go right.
regretted it somewhat because I think I've missed it. You know what? I was glad that we established our friendship, and I think that was very important. But as far as the degree is concerned, I think that's the part I missed because as far as meeting people, being coming well rounded, um, I think that was the best thing that ever happened to me was meeting you guys, us coming together and respecting each other in their own right of what they did and what they completed and everything else. And I was able to come home and evolve myself into a well-rounded individual and a productive citizen in society. I was able to get a job. I was able to get an apartment. I got my first car. I got benefits. You know what I mean? I was the guy with benefits. You know that they talk about in the song. You know, a man with benefits. I felt good about that. You know, but I had two jobs at one time. I worked at at the hospital, worked at the university. I was a hustler. I didn't have a problem with that, and but that's how I was raised to be productive. We don't care what you do, as Chuck said, just do the best of your ability, but just become a productive citizen. Don't just be sitting on your ass not doing anything. You know what I mean? And I think there's well, one of the questions I want to throw out to you guys in regards to our kids, you got being intelligent versus being scholastically inclined. What do you guys think about that? I'll throw that out at the Wayne. What do you think about that?
You said being intelligent as
Versus
opposed to being scholastically
challenge.
challenged
Yes.
or
Yeah.
inclined. Challenged or inclined. That's a good word, Mike. I see you've been on
Oh,
the
no doubt. No
dictionary.
doubt. No doubt.
So, so that's interesting, right? Because there's a bunch of people who are really what we call book smart. That means they could be a 3.5, 4.0 student. They kill it in school. They can't even pick up their head to cross the street. You know what I mean? They just don't got that I won't call it street smarts, but they just don't got common
Right.
Hmm.
sense. And so there's a balance. There's a balance. I think, I was going to say, Mike, every year I was at Morgan, you was there for homecoming, so you should probably get an honorary degree. But, um, but, um, but no, seriously though, there is a difference between that. And I think as fathers, we should be able to look at our child and say, you know what? I went through that process. I'm not sure
Right.
you're going to struggle. And at the end of the day, I'm going to get frustrated and be mad that I
Yep.
spent all this
Hmm.
money.
Yep.
Yep.
So I think that's your
Right.
duty to say, you know what? Let's look at some alternatives. What that means is when these kids get to 11th, 12th grade, maybe you get them into some after school activities that are geared towards something that they're like, all these kids are into
Right. Right.
computers in
Right.
some way or form. So maybe you get them into something that's at the community college or
Right.
something like that, just so that they can see, hey, there's a way to make money around gaming, for
Right.
example. There's a way to make money around social media. That there's other ways to make money as opposed to just waking up, getting dressed, and going to a cubicle
Right.
somewhere. So, that's what it is. And again, common sense is important, but it also you have to remember that if all you're doing is passing all your tests and doing well in school, that's
Right.
great. But that's not the real world. I mean, I don't want to say my GPA is on this open line, but the- but
Yeah.
it doesn't really show how successful you're gonna
Right.
be. All those 4.0 students, they'll probably do all right. And there's probably some students that barely made it by that did all right too, that are gonna do all right too. So I'm just saying, I think we used to put that pressure, and I think we should kind of fall back on that a little
Right.
bit now.
What do you feel? Okay.
So
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Charles, what do you think about it?
Well, I think Wayne said it very well. The only thing that I would add to that is that at some point in time, you need to really assess how bad the child wants it, even if they say they want to go to
Right.
college. Because we are talking about common sense. We are talking about some folks that are made out for it. Some people, aren't. And but we're asking the parent to really, sit back and sort of be the judge of that. And some people are late bloomers. You know what I mean? There are some people that I have yet to run into an individual who actually completed the process of college and regretted it. Okay, I've yet to run into that person.
Yeah.
However, I've run into many people that were perhaps in the wrong major. I've run into many people that underachieved. I've run into many people that are not operating in the field in which they got their degree.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I think there's a whole lot of thought process that goes into this, but at the end of the day, I think it's really understanding who the child is, understanding where potentially they might do well and may not, that sort of thing. Because um, again, there are just a whole lot of misplaced individuals out here. I'll just term it in that way.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. I appreciate that, Steph. Do you want to elaborate on that, or Chuck?
Y- Well, let me jump in. This is Steph. Um, there, there are a lot of book smart people, and as well as street smart people. Uh, but you got to know exactly what your child is, and then and then from there assess it. I'll tell you guys a little secret about me. I got my bachelor's from Morgan State in 1990, along with Wayne. But it wasn't until 24 years or 22 years later, I'm sorry, 24 years later, that I started working on my master's because I really just didn't want that pressure of school. And I was successful without having my master's. So allow your child to make the decision early on in life because later on they may make a decision that would better them because they're doing it on their own terms.
Okay. Okay. Do you guys agree with that, Chuck? You agree with that at all?
Hey, this is Chuck. I'm sorry. I think Stefan made some really valid points, man. So yeah, I agree.
Wayne, what do you think?
Well, no. I'm with Chuck. Said it earlier that education is a big thing, and I think that the fact that Steph indicated that he got his undergraduate degree and then waited until he many years later to get his master's degree. I think that's a great thing. Whenever you get it, it's a great thing to get it whenever you do, and to continue on with your education. Yeah, I think that's wonderful.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah, Charles.
Yeah, the other thing that my father coached me on a long time ago, although I went directly into college out of high school, one of the things that he was willing to do was to, well, I shouldn't even say willing to do because I paid for my own college. So let me just backtrack on that. But one of the things that he had recommended that I possibly look into is entering the workforce first and then deciding, potentially where I wanted to go within that framework and whether or not a degree would be necessary for me to go as far as I need to go in that particular arena. Because again, it's about, finding your way, discovering, who you are, what you want to be. And if at some point in time, there's um, an opportunity to fast track yourself, and the only way to do that is by pursuing the degree, then again there's you've created sort of that hunger in yourself, that initiative in yourself to achieve that.
Okay.
Hopefully you follow me on that.
No, I get it. I get it because from my experience, I think that what I realized is that even though I didn't finish, I was able to go back to back home and actually take some college courses, but also pursue different levels of promotion at jobs or whatever. And they also would give you the ability to go to school to acquire your degree. Which was in that in that realm there. But what I remember most about this whole thing about when the kids, I think the pressure. I think one of the things that really had an effect on me, and it really stuck with me for a while, was the anxiety, overwhelm that my mother had, and that I had to get used to it because my mother didn't go to college, my father didn't go, and then when I wanted to, she was overwhelmed. She overwhelmed me, and then when I actually went, I think even though I was trying to do well, I still felt guilty because at some point I still felt that we didn't have everything that we needed for her to support, for her to support me. And I know everybody dealt with their own situations because everybody's family wasn't perfect. But I think sometimes that the pressure from family, and not even inadvertently negative pressure, but the seeing somebody else overwhelmed trying to do the best they can for you, I think that has a secondary effect on you and your performance sometime, when you don't know, you don't know how to handle it as a young guy or a young kid away from home, and you feel it or you hear it in somebody's voice that they might not have that extra money to send you, to the bank. Or remember we had to go to the bank to pick up our little money or whatever, not to have that and to feel guilty about it. um, I think that we really need to know our kids and know what they really want to do, because I wouldn't want to put anybody through that, you know, especially after my experience. Did anybody want to comment on that?
Well, what I'll say is I do remember that getting those checks or whatever and going to the liquor store to cash them, and they take $1.50 or whatever of your $10. That was crazy, right? That was crazy. Oh
That
man,
that was $1 million. Hey, that was $1 million back
Yep.
then.
Man, look, out of your $10, that was a bunch. So nah, but that's really interesting, Mike. So a lot of us on this call have had a level of success financially,
Right,
right?
right,
No one's killing it, but
right.
nobody's hurting either. And so we're in a little bit different position than, not all of us, but some of us are in a different position than our parents were.
Oh yeah,
So like you, Mike, I was one of the first. Uh, I want to say that's not exactly true, but we didn't have a whole lot of money and we didn't have a whole lot of experience with college. Let me say it like that. And so when I was out there, it was tough. You
oh yeah.
know,
I know. I remember.
it, so,
I sell
so
those books.
you
Those
know,
when we came back to the room and the
yeah,
books that we
come
tried to
on,
sell,
man,
the books we were supposed to
come on,
sell
man.
under the mattress, somebody took them.
Come on, man. We was freshmen. They took
Oh, big time.
advantage. So yeah, but I think this group here, and so we think about the people who are listening to us, and say, hey, what if you got that really gifted child educational wise, and there's a lot of potential for that person, but your pockets ain't right. You can't really support your child. I mean, we got people like that listening to us as well, and we just gotta kind of help them or guide them towards some sort of scholarships or some grants and some different things that can help let that child become all that they can be, because maybe they got that science mind or they got that engineering mind that you can't really cultivate the same way outside of
Right.
college. I don't
Well,
know. I don't know that. But
from
go ahead, Mike.
what I've learned and what I've seen with my kids, and they're very tech savvy. They started learning a lot of things that I didn't even learn back when they were in the second grade. But I know that there's a lot of careers out there in the trades: the electricians, the plumbers, the carpenters, the mechanics. There's programs out there for them. There's also the STEM program. A lot of you guys, Charles, I know, I don't, Chuck, I know you might be familiar with Wayne, with a science, technology, engineering, where you can go in and as an intern as an engineer and wind up becoming an engineer and don't even have the engineering degree if you get into the right company and they promote you from within. Chuck, for instance, entrepreneur, small businesses, you can get grants, funding, find investors or whatever, learn how to do that different stuff. There's other alternatives out there, and like I said, I think that parents really need to get to know their kids, and like Wayne said about his son, I say about mine. I know mine, and right now, like I said, I love my boy, but we're gonna have to have a talk because I'm not wasting no money. I done saved a lot of money. I'm not I'm not wasting for you to go down there like, dad, yeah, can you come get me? I'm like, mother fledging. I said, come get you. I'm gonna send you a ticket. You bring your never ass on a Greyhound, and I hope you get a rip seat with a spring that's sticking in your. Never mind. Go ahead, go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, but what about that high potential child? Because I don't. I don't know if you recall, there was a guy that was in the dorm with us at Morgan. This guy, I'm not going to mention his name, of course, for obvious reasons, but we're talking about a straight A student. We're
Oh,
talking about
okay.
4.0.
Engineer.
This guy, yeah, this guy was actually tutoring upperclassmen.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. And then all of a sudden one day decided, you know what? I don't want to be in college anymore. Ended up going back home. I believe he lives in Philly and getting into the construction field. So if you're his parent, if that's your child, I mean, what do you say to that dude? Because he has higher education written all over. He was just naturally gifted and smart, but
Right.
did not complete the process. I mean, what if that was your child?
But I think that for me, I think now I'm a lot smarter now because we came up in the right time. We're in the mix of some old stuff and some new stuff. And I think we're in the perfect dimension as far as learning old new stuff, but being able to experience old and new things. I think for him, I believe back then, I don't think for having a child that smart, if your parents didn't have, if they didn't know how to talk to you or how to handle it, or they didn't have the resources, I think it would be kind of hard. I think they would be intimidated by you having such a smart child. You don't have to help him do his homework. He knows what he's doing. He can tell you how to do different things. Whatever. I mean, it can become intimidating. Like, how am I going to tell this young man what to do in college if he doesn't want to be there, if he thinks he's too smart? So I think it's based on the parent, your interaction with your kid, your relationship, the communication. I think that has a lot to do with it. What do you think, Wayne?
I'm in agreement with what you're saying, Mike. I think, and Charles, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm thinking what you're trying to say, Charles, is like, this cat got all the potential in the world,
Yeah,
and he makes a decision
he
to
did.
not use it.
Exactly.
Now what?
Exactly.
Now what? So that doesn't mean that he's not going to be productive as something other than a college graduate.
Right.
It just means like, as a parent, you're like, you could have been so much more.
Right.
So I
Well,
don't know. That's
who's to
crazy.
say
Chuck,
that child's not going to be more? See,
right. Well,
I
that's
hear
what I'm
what you're
saying,
saying.
Chuck.
That child, he's a 4.0 student. He decided, look, man, I'm tutoring all these people. I'm smarter than everybody around me. Maybe he wasn't feeling challenged by the school that he was
Right.
in. You know,
Right.
maybe he decided, I just need to take a break. Maybe he wanted to do something in construction. The bottom line is, somebody like that, I'd be disappointed. I'd be pissed off if I was their parent. However, they're smart, they're educated, and quite frankly, they're grown. Parental guidance doesn't stop when your child becomes an adult.
Right.
Parental guidance never, if you're smart, in my opinion, parental guidance never stops. If I'm 86 and my child is 65, I still have more life lessons than my child, and I still think I have some wisdom that I can impart. So for the child that says, "Hey, look, I'm a straight A student. I'm in my fourth year of college, but you know what? I'm gonna drop out and see the world, this, that, and the other." I would be pissed. However, that's when you go into parent mode, you sit down with him, you talk, okay, remember what we talked about earlier? What's your plan? I'm paying I'm invested in this. I'm invested in my child's
Oh
education
yeah.
because
Oh,
I'm paying
definitely.
for it. So
Oh yeah.
I want to know. I've paid for you up to this point because the expectation was you were going to get your degree and go off and do whatever. Well, you've decided that you want to get your degree. What's your plan? Oh, and how do you plan on repaying me?
Right.
I mean,
Well,
I probably wouldn't say that to my
but
kid,
you're
but
right.
but
You're
the
right.
yeah,
Right. But from you guys, everybody that had to work their way through college or do whatever the case may be, I've learned now while saving for my child that I'm not going to waste it away on some education, which I know you're not really doing. I'm going to press you and say, listen, is this really what you want to do? And if it is, I'm going to give you a timeline or whatever. If you're not producing, I'm not going to let you waste it all the way where it could be utilized, elsewhere. I've
Mhm.
learned that because we've learned that over the years as far as growth, as when we work in, or how we save money, how we save away for for our kids education. I think we should have that conversation, and it should be very stern about, look, what do you want to do? I heard the engineering word come out of my son's mouth, and I was about to jump up and grab him in the headlock because I said, what engineer? You better learn how to peel a grape before you start telling me some nonsense. Engineers talking about that nonsense about engineer. I mean, engine who? Engine
Right.
number 9 going down the Chicago line. You must
Well,
be out your mind.
Come on,
well,
Hey,
that
man.
hey,
goes
Mike.
back to knowing your children
Yeah,
and what they're what they're capable of, I guess
yeah.
possibly.
But
But again, that goes back to parental guidance. You got to steer them.
yeah,
You got to talk to them. You got to find out what their interests are, what their likes, and work it out.
yeah. Well,
Hey,
I'm gonna go ahead, Steph, and I'll tell you what I was gonna say after that.
okay, can I interject? One thing though, I would stress, if possible, talk to the kid about going to school for 1 year. 1 year, see how it works out. Because once we met and we gelled within, let's say, 4 or 5 months, so it kind of motivated us to come back. But also, while they're there, they can find out if there's scholarships available. Are they really gifted enough to get Pell Grants and things of that nature? Because for me, I was gifted with the ROTC scholarship. So they paid for my last 3 years, but I didn't know anything about a scholarship for ROTC when I was straight out of high school. No one talked to me about that. So they
Right,
may find ways to pay for or finance their own education if they desire to do that.
right. Okay, I understand that part. So, I don't know. I just think that for me, I think I'm gonna have a sit down conversation that my mother didn't have with me. She let me dictate what I was gonna do, and she stood by, but she didn't really have any input because she didn't know. My mother never went to college, so she didn't know what really to say. She was expecting me to stay home, but if I had
Mm.
stayed home, I would have never met you guys. So I think, to me, things happen for a reason. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Things happen for a reason, and I believe this is the way things are supposed to be, and I'm okay with that. Okay, if something
Mm.
changes later on in life where I might decide to go back to school, so be it. But as of right now, I'm doing okay. I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. I'm a productive citizen. My wife is, I have an intelligent wife. We have a beautiful family, and so do you guys. So I think that things happen for a reason, and if it happens and you go with it and it works out, so be it.
Yeah.
So, Mike, if I could
Yeah.
say something, for the folks that are listening, I think one of the things that I'm looking at doing is we talked about my son a little bit, but I want to get him I want to get him to try to take some classes at a community college. The reason being is that it's a lesser of a commitment than trying to get into a 4 year
Hmm.
college, and you can see how he handles that. And maybe he takes two classes or something that he's interested in, because I think a child has to want to go to college. You when you push them to it, they're just going through the motions. Yeah, they may get through it with a 2.0, but that's not what they wanted to do. They feel like it's not a good use of their time. So I think maybe if you put someone in community college or guide them towards community college, they can say, okay, here's a class that I'm interested. Let me see, and maybe here's another class. Your cost is way down, and if they choose to not do it, you're like, all right, now we know for sure. Instead of blowing a whole 2 semesters, 25 grand.
Right. You're right.
Yeah, I
I
would say
agree.
if I would my middle child actually did this, and I would say this: if you have a child that is on the fence about going to school, college, and they're even potentially talking about not going, then yeah, don't waste the money sending them to a university. Send them to if you can talk them into going to school. Send them to a community college. In state, save some money, and let them get their undergrad out the way. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, not undergrad. Let them get their all their general studies
Associates.
out of the way. And then if they want to continue on, they can transfer to a 4 year degree. But and if the worst they get out of it, they get an AA out of it. But my daughter actually proposed that to me. She's like, "Look, Dad, I'm not sure. So here's what I want to do. I want to go to the community college, save you some money, and then I'll make the decision." I said, "Okay." And I thought that was a very adult decision for her to make. I'm glad she was wanted to save me some money, and I let her know the money wasn't the issue. I want you to get the best education possible. She said it just doesn't make sense. She said because I don't know what I want to do in the future. I know I need to get my general studies out the way. So let me just go ahead and get that out the way, and then I can make some decisions from there. I thought that was a very grown up adult decision to make. It saved me some money. And, so even if you have a child that's talking about not going to school or not going to higher education or college or whatever, still expose them to it. You still need to expose them to it. Because they're still formulating opinions. They may not, they don't know really what college is about. and I didn't till I got there and started seeing what college was really about, and that it wasn't about party time. Because if you wanted to find me my first year, all you got to do was come to the cafeteria. Because I was right, you know what I'm saying? So, until, my father put his foot in my ass, I'm not paying for this shit.
Right.
You need to go to class.
Okay.
All right. So, parental guidance, all that, man. But just, you still got to expose your kids to, stuff like that. But if they decide that they don't want to go, there's options, man. There's always options.
Okay.
Talk to
Well, sounds
your
good.
kids. Engage your kids. You'll be, especially now that we're all in the house, stuck in the house. Talk to your kids. You will be surprised the things that you find out.
Oh yeah.
And
No doubt.
and and it's a captured audience. Where can they go?
Okay.
Just talk to your
No,
kids, man. You'll be surprised.
no, I appreciate that input. Everything that was really good. We're at the end of our segment, and I'm gonna wrap it up and find out, does anybody else want to contribute to anything? You guys good, or
I think we're
anybody
good,
want to
man.
say anything? Okay.
Yeah, Mike.
Well said.
Yeah, hey, I just want to thank you for doing a good show here, Mike, and thank all our listeners and following us on our various podcasts. And thanks, Mike.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And I just want to say to our listeners also, um, communication is the key. Like Chuck said, listen to what the kids have to say. Give them an opportunity to fix it. Don't prejudge them, even if they're knuckleheads, punk ass kids, whatever we call them. We still love them, and we want to give them the opportunity to give them a chance to be productive in society,
Yeah,
to actually look forward or do something that they want to do. They might be as smart as hell, but they might not be that college bound kid. They might want to do something in STEM related stuff. So just have a talk with your kids. Sit down, talk with your kid, and find out what they want to do, and let them talk. Don't interrupt them. Let them say what they have to say, because, like Chuck said, you'll be surprised what they had to say. We're at the end of our segment. Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Just Be a Man 2020 podcast. You can find us on Google Play, Twitter, Spotify, Instagram, iTunes, you name it, we there. Just look for it. Just Be a Man 2020. All right. Thank you for coming out. God bless. Deuces.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Just Be a Man podcast. Be sure to check us out on social media, where you can subscribe to our show and/or leave a comment. We will love to receive your feedback. Also, remember to tune in next week for more meaningful discussion. Until then, we wish you peace and blessings.